This is Pharaoh's house.
Greetings, kindred souls and kind strangers. Pupils, that's an alternative word for students. Get ready to write more notes, for my Podisode Health Tips starts now. This segment addresses microplastics, which I have addressed in past Podisodes on plastics in all things ingestible and inhalable. Read any current article on the microplastics subject, and 9 times out of 10, each article will conclude that current scientific research does not know the long-term effects of microplastics on human health. These article writers are not being honest with their audiences. Petrochemical industrialists have known for at least the last 25 years what harmful effects nanoplastics have on immune response. Even the WHO, or WHO, claims that the world's population breathes air containing levels of pollutants that exceeds their own pollution limit standards, including plastic particles. Microplastics are released during the life cycle of plastics, from production to circulation to consumer usage and disposal. Depending on the micron size of the plastic invader, microplastics are able to breach intestinal tissues, enter the bloodstream, and dysregulate the immune response of your vessel. Microplastics encourage blood thickening, abnormal clotting, inflammation, and increased presence of prions or misshaped proteins, which have been attributed to causing neurodegenerative diseases, autoimmune diseases, and proliferation of pathogens like viruses and parasites. When you hear the word prions, think mad cow disease. But beyond all that, microplastics trap so-called spirits in a sentient vessel, similar to what happens when a river or stream becomes clogged with plastics. The river will then enter self-destruct mode, depending on the chemicals and energies leaching into the water. Flora and fauna begin to mutate or become sterile. Imagine what goes on in your so-called gut when it attempts to assimilate or to eliminate microplastics. If you ingested them in liquids or solids, they easily bypass stomach acids, as acid does little to nothing to plastic. For example, stomach acid contains a minute amount of hydrochloric acid, enough to break down bone and teeth, but it does nothing to plastic. In fact, plastic containers are used to hold acid. Plastic also makes the perfect containment field for spirits, just like the metal lead and a few other substances do. If you recall, I mentioned that a spirit can be generated organically as well as artificially. No doubt there is a difference at the cores of both manifestations, but we'll focus on artificially generated spirits, which microplastics facilitate a proliferation of within various life forms, in particular the so-called human life form. 2 of the most commonly physiological situations attributed to microplastics are schizophrenia-like disorders and dementia-like symptoms. The response, of course, by the medical industrial complex to these types of mental or physical crises is to prescribe pharmaceuticals containing metals and metalloproteins, as well as opiates, which affect one's ethereal spatial orientation, or as I call it, reality tether. You have a physical spatial orientation, which is defined as our natural ability to maintain our bodily orientation and or posture in relation to the surrounding environment or physical space, at rest or during motion. Genetically speaking, humans are designed to maintain spatial orientation on the ground, in definition. I surmise that to match our physical spatial orientation, there is a psychospiritual or ethereal orientation. I call this, as I said, a reality tether. This idea is not new. Some schools of thought call this a silver cord or the antakarana. Briefly explained, a reality tether is a hypothetical ethereal tether attached to rear left scapular or shoulder blade region, with a minor length of it running along left lateral region down to the left heel of your foot. Allegedly, everyone has this tether, which can be infected by various elements, such as parasites. But if breached irreparably or cut, renders its life form mentally deleted from present consciousness. Microplastics can affect connection to reality in some people, particularly those who ingest psychotropics, hallucinogens, copious amounts of alcoholic beverages, or impure cannabis. Tether breach or loss does not always result in physical death, but can disarm one's spiritual immunity or defense response mechanisms. We see evidence of this with severe mood swings, violent emotional response, bipolar disorders, and severe depression, to name a few. Blog and select sponsor a podisode. Also consider becoming a member of pharaohshouse.com by subscribing today or by becoming a supporter at patreon.com/pharaohshouse.